Kids, well, today we're going to demonstrate how to drill and tap holes in a piece of metal. Okay, as you can see, these ones have been done. I've used this one as a demo before on numerous occasions. For instance, there is threads in this hole here. Focus. Well, there is. Aha. There, you can see them. Yay! Woohoo! So I'm just going to use this guy. It's kind of turned into a giant piece of Swiss cheese. No big deal. It's just a scrap piece of metal. Now, I'm going to put a little paint mark where I want to drill this next hole. It's going to go right there. Okay? Now, to get this started, I'm going to use, of course, a ball peen hammer and a center punch. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put my ball peen or my center punch right where I want the hole to be gone, and just beat the crud out of it. Now sometimes it'll jump. If it jumps, make sure you get back in the little hole that you just started. You can feel it when you're in the right spot because you can feel the groove is already there. So allow me to hit it again, and again, and again. Now what you'll notice is there is now a divot there. Let me focus in on it. By George, there's a divot right there. Awesome. That's where we're going to start our hole. I'm going to put it in the vise now. And in the vise, I'm going to then use the drill bit to punch a hole in it. Okay? Once you get the hole drilled, then we're going to go thread it. Now, before you start this whole process, you have to ask yourself, all right, what size of a hole am I going to want in this thing? Do I want a, let's say, a 5/16? Do I want a 7/16? Half inch, whatever. And not only that, do I want a 5/16 by 18 threads? Do I want a 5/16 by 24? And so on and so on and so on. So I have this handy dandy little chart right here, which I keep on the back bench. And so I see down here, for instance, a 5/16. Okay? Well, if I want a 5/16, 18 thread right there, it tells me what size hole to drill. So if I follow it all the way across, it says I need to use a size F. Where's my finger? I can't see my finger. I lost my finger. It got cut off. Oh, it's right there. It says I need to use an F-sized drill bit. Cool. Now, over here, we have what is called your drill bit index. And if you look, the things you never think you have to do. You need to clean the front of your drill bit index sometimes so you can see what you're doing down here. Mr. Green, why are they labeled A, B, C, D, E, F, G? I don't know, friend. No one asked me why. Okay? No one told me, hey, Mr. Groom, the reason that we're labeling them A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P is because this and such. Okay? So there they are, and then you got S, R, Q, P, W, and so forth and so on. They're big ones. Okay? On this side, that is what you have. These are the ones that are specifically for certain size holes. On the other side, they're labeled by fractions on the other side. Okay? Now these are different sizes over here. An F maybe is in the same ballpark as a 5/16, but it's not the same. And so they're a different size. You have to pay attention to that. Make sure that you use the appropriate one for the job. Okay? Now, I'm going to grab the F bit. Now, what you would see is, and again in class, it probably takes some minutes to show this, an F is slightly smaller than 5/16. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and drill this hole right through there with this guy here. It's nice and sharp. But what's helpful sometimes is to start it with a smaller hole. So it's called a pilot hole. That we're probably going to test someday. You probably should jot that down. So when you're drilling holes, if a person starts the hole with a smaller bit, that is called a pilot hole. Okay? So that's what we're going to do. Now in the shop we've got several drills. Okay, I will show them to you as we get going here. Oh. So this drill is fairly nice. in that it is, zoom out a little bit, dummy. In that, it's a 3/8 drill. Whee! Under here, you have a position. It changes it going left to right or right to left. We always want to make sure that the thing is turning clockwise. That's how it cuts. Okay, this one's nice from the standpoint if I want to take the bit out, I simply hold this chuck part here, hold it in my hand. I turn the reverse switch on, and it loosens up the jaw so I can remove that bit and then put this bit in. Oops, that's the wrong bit, dummy. Oh, that's the right bit, but I'm not going to use it. I'm going to use the pilot bit. So if I spin this with my fingers, it's tightening up. Come on. Oop, that was loosening it. Turn it the other way, dummy. Turn it the other way, and it tightens up on the bit. How do I know which way? If it turn it one way and it doesn't work, turn it the other way. You can see these little jaws coming out right here, gripping it. Now turn the motor to go forwards, hang on to the jaw, and it tightens it down. There's a little clicking that you heard there. Okay, that got it good and tight. Now, let's focus back in on our metal up here. Zoom, 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 zoom. Okay, and if I could, I would get you a little higher view. I'm going to pause. I'm not going to pause. If I pause, I have to stitch the whole video together, and I just don't want to do that very bad today. So I'm not going to. What I'm going to do, I think, is make you smaller legged. Hi. And I'm going to put you up on the actual bench. And then watch me drop the camera on the ground. Wouldn't that be fun? No. All right, now, here we go. Turn your legs. There we go. A little wider base. That's nice. All right, there we go. Get these dumb cabinets out of the way. All right. And then down. Oh, hey, that's nice. There you go. Woot. 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 All right, so here we go. So, when we go to drill a hole, we like to use some cutting oil. Just a little bit of oil. We'll keep one of these cans here. We'll put a little toot of it right there on the little divot. And then take your drill. And it's imperative when you're drilling down, you're just going to hold it right straight down here like this. You want to put enough pressure on, but you don't want to get carried away. You want to turn it about that fast. In theory, this length of little shavings is what should be coming off. That's beautiful. Oh, look at that. We went right through. That was pretty painless. So I turn it back to reverse, hold the chuck, spins my bit out. By the way, if you had to drill a very large hole and you grab the bit, that'd be the last time you grab the bit, I promise you, because it's going to be hot, and you're not going to be pleased that you grabbed it. You're going to be very angry that you grabbed it. Okay? Now, again, I put the F bit in. That's the next size. I'm going to put it on to turn on position. I'm going to hold it tight. Now, if there wasn't already some juice on here, I'd give it a little bit more juice. Again, this is going to help with the friction, keep my bit cooled down. We kind of like that. It's easier on the bits that way. Say, that was pretty easy. Nice. It was pretty painless. Okay? Now I got rid of the chips that were on it. All right, now I'm ready to go actually put these threads in the hole. So to do that, I'm going to open up my little box of taps, and I'm going to find the 5/16 by 18, I think is what I said. 5/16 by 18 is what I think I said. Isn't that what I said? 5/16, that's 3/8. Where's 5/16? That's 7/16. Come on, dummy. Where'd you put it? 3/8, 5/16, 5/16. Is that quarter? No. Oh, no. There's also 7/16. Where's the stupid 5/16? Okay, well, the one that belongs in this package is not there. Let me get another one that belongs. I have. Here is one here. It's fine. I mean, we have a ton of these. This is the size I normally make kids do in the project. And I do that because that way I know that everyone's doing the same basic thing. So I'm going to tighten her down like thus. And again, when you go to cut, some people like some liquid on them. I don't at first. I like to get started first. I always make sure that I hold it with one hand like this, and I push down solidly and turn it nice and slow. The whole point of starting this nice and slow is so that I get it cutting straight. Once I know it started, and I know it started because it's pulling hard, I'm going to go about 1/2 to 3/4 of a turn. I'm going to back it off until I hear a little crunch. I'll shut up this time. You listen for the crunch. About 1/2 turn. Okay, I'm going to turn it backwards. Listen to the crunch. As soon as you hear that little crunch, what that is the metal is being pushed into the flutes. And it's being out of the system. Now this is not a blind hole. That is, the hole goes all the way through. So if you had your hand underneath it, you'd be catching those little shavings as they're falling out. In a blind hole, it's very important that you always go backwards because those shavings have to go somewhere and they're going to come up the flutes on on all 4 sides of it there. And once you're all the way through, you'll notice that it turns just pretty easy. Whee! That means you've made it all the way through. You're no longer cutting threads. Okay, you were cutting until it loosened up like that. As soon as it loosened up, you're no longer doing any cutting because all the threads all the way through the hole have been cut. Now, annoyingly, when you're doing is what's called a blind hole, where it doesn't go all the way through the metal. What can happen is at some point you just have to stop because you run out of cutting. All right, you can only cut so many inches of thread, maybe 1.5 inches, whatever it is. And so just be aware of that. Now, if I've done this correctly, this guy here will just thread in slicker and a whistle. Nice. It's like I know what I'm talking about. Okay? Now, that is a 1/2 inch. So what I'm going to do is 2 things. I'm going to grab a 1/2 inch socket. I'm going to grab a 1/2 inch socket on a ratchet here. And I'm just going to go ahead and take that down and snug it up. Now, if you were paying attention, you realize that this has a nut underneath of it. The reason for that is because a bolt, the threads do not all go all the way to the head. And so the only reason we have that on there is so that we bush it out a little bit so we don't damage or break the thing off. I don't really want to break this off in the hole. Okay? Now, you're like, well, how tight should we make that? That is a fabulous question. And because I didn't prepare ahead because I'm waiting for parts, and so I thought, you know what, Jay, why don't you just be smart about this and use your time wisely? So I said, no, all right, let's do that. What I'm going to do is just show you the chart down here on the wall. Okay, the chart is right there. Let's zoom in on her, skosh. Nope, zoom in, zoom, 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 zoom. Focus. So 5/16 right there. If you go up, you will see that this is our grade 5 markings, is this column right here. So we should be doing this at 14 foot-pounds of torque. That's a big deal. We keep this chart on the back wall for all things. Now, if you are just using a random bolt that's a metric, and it's an 8.8, come down that column right there, it'll tell you how much torque you should use. We'll look at this more later, in depth. All right, but for right now, 14 foot-pounds of torque is what I should be using on this guy. Allow me to demonstrate the torquing process. Okay? So here is one style of torque wrench that we will use. On the back right here, it has markings. To adjust this, there's a little lock. This little guy here turns and locks it. So I unlock it, and I'm going to come up to where it says 15 or just under 14 foot-pounds, just under 15 foot-pounds of torque, which would be 14. And then I'm going to lock that down so it cannot move anymore. Okay? And the idea, what I'm going to do, we're going to put our socket on here because Mr. Grimm looks just like a ratchet. That's because it basically is. And we're going to turn this, and if you listen, you will hear it click. You can feel it move right there. It's at that point that you've applied enough force to where this says you've applied 14 foot-pounds of torque. We'll talk more about that in the future, again, how that all operates. We have several different styles. This is what we call a click type. We also have another style that's an electric type. Very important that you get the right amount of torque. We don't want to break bolts off. Could I break this bolt off? Yeah. Am I going to? Nope. No, I sure am not. Why? Because they're not fun to get out when you break them. That's why, sir, ma'am. All right? Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to decide that I want to use a 3/8 by 16 thread. That's what I want to use this time. If you look on the chart, maybe, there you go. So we got 3/8. Well, where are you? 3/8 by 16. That's right there, and I come across, and I'll tell you right now, that should be a 5/16 bit. That's what we want to use. So once again, if I'm drilling a hole and I want to use a decent sized bit, you're like, wait, isn't 5/16 quite a bit smaller than 3/8? So what I'm going to show you on this one is, well, kind of what not to do. So for instance, if I wanted to, well, I'm going to do two things. I'm going to show you what not to do, then I'm going to drill and tap another hole as well. Okay? So I started my little divot there. I feel pretty good about that. Okay, I'm going to get my drill here. I'm going to do another pilot hole. This time when I make my pilot hole, what I'm going to do is I'm going to purposely make my hole a little bigger than I planned on. So in other words, instead of doing 5/16, I'm going to actually drill a 3/8 hole. And you're like, and then I'm going to try to tap it, and I'm going to see what happens when I do that. And I just want you to see. So, get a little start, put a little juice on her there. There we go. Cool. It's best if the whole thing is not swimming in oil. A little dab will do ya. Love those kind of drills from the standpoint they're easy to get the bits in and out of. They're also a total pain in the buttocks because when you're drilling metal, they tend to, when a bit sticks, it tends to slip in the chuck a lot better. You know your bit is good and sharp, and you're going about the right speed if that's the kind of shavings that are coming off. If you're getting little shavings off, it's not sharp enough, and typically you're going a little too fast. Okay? But not always. There's different feels to it, but just be aware of that. Now, I'm going to grab a 3/8 drill bit here. There it is. That's the 3/8 one. I'm going to grab this 3/8 drill bit, and I'm going to punch a 3/8 hole because I want to drill, Mr. Grimm, I'm going to put 3/8 inch threads. Cool. Let's try that. Let's see what happens. Okay, now this bit's a little dull, so that's kind of sad. This may not work quite as well as I wanted to. Rats. I wonder, did I make one of those that's already the right size? Oh, okay. It's okay. It's okay, friends. I'm just going to use this one instead, okay? This one is now 3/8 inches in diameter. Mr. Grimm, do you have a 3/8 bolt? By George, I do. Now watch me put this 3/8 bolt into this hole. Well, I had a great video all prepared for you. It turned out pretty good, except that, it shut off after 20 minutes. So that was cool. So I get to do it again. Yay! Woo! Oh, Mr. Grimm, I cannot get down to where this bolt is I cannot get on it with a socket. I thought I had a socket sitting here, but apparently I put it away. Yeah, I cannot get on that with a socket, Mr. Groom. I try, and my socket will not get under it. Oh no! Whatever will I do? Well, I am going to use a wrench, sir. That's what I'm going to use. So I'm going to put this guy on there. Notice that my box end also will not go on. So I put my regular open end on it, and I start pulling. Now, let me just say that when you do this, I can tell you this until I'm blue in the face. If you don't listen to me, that's a you problem. But here's when you'll learn it. When you slip and you smash your hands, don't come crying to Mr. Groom about it. Don't come crying to me about it. If I'm pulling on this thing as hard as I can and it were to slip, my knuckles are going to get scraped all to heck on this piece of metal. If I was going down here more and it slipped, my hand is going to get bashed on this edge of the vise. Well, that's not going to make me happy, friend. So what I will do oftentimes is give it the old tappy, tappy, tappy with my palm. In essence, creating an impact wrench. Okay? That's what an impact is doing, except it's obviously hitting it a lot harder. A longer wrench, obviously, would help a lot. Again, a little tappy, ouch. Tappy, tappy still came loose. Notice I did that on accident, and I drew blood. How sweet is that? I didn't do it on purpose. I believe you me. I do not need to have any more cuts, because, number one, they hurt like a son of a gun. Yeah, and they make blood everywhere. Good morning. Hope that helps your breakfast. Yum. Now, Mr. Groom, what if it were higher and I could actually get a socket on it? Well, I'm glad. I'm going to go put a Band-Aid on it in a minute, I think. Anyway, if I could put a socket on it, well, I kind of dig that. Now, I could use this deep socket, okay? But I'm only on that outside nut head. When I lay onto that, it falls down. Make sure you can see that properly. It kind of falls down, and it might fall off and like slip off, and I'll land on my head. And I'll smash my hand. It's not make me happy. Notice that if I'm pushing it like this is going to land right in my chest. Not cool, man. Not cool. So what I'll probably do is, instead of using a deep socket, get me a shallow socket, so that instead of pushing clear out, way out here, pushing down, when I'm pushing down here, it's awfully closer to what I'm actually trying to turn, which is right here. I'm less likely to fall on my head doing that, or smash my hands anymore. Okay? Now, I'm going to try to tie this baby down. There you go. Now, Mr. Groom, someone mentioned this morning, hey, what about a breaker bar? That's a good question. Now remember, a breaker bar is kind of handy in that it doesn't have any ratchet to it. If I wanted to, I could get a long piece of pipe to go on the end of this handle. Extend that handle out there a ways. And I could, and go from here. Again, if I'm pulling this way and it slips, I'm going to land on that. I'm probably not going to do that. Probably going to set it kind of like this. You get the old tappy, tappy, tappy. And there she comes loose. Again, I'm not joking. I actually like to hit things when I'm closing them. Opening them. Typically, I like to do that because that little bit of impact tends to break them loose. If I'm just reefing on them and it slips, you cut your hand, whatever. Someone's probably throwing up at home right now. It's not cool. I'm sorry. Yeah, be aware of that. Okay? Note that this little wrench here, the stubby one, I could probably get on there. I could probably break it loose. I'm going to push a lot harder. Because I don't have as much torque as if I had the big one on there. Now again, I can get to the whole thing. So if I'm breaking it loose with this one now, I'm going to use the box end. This is hard to pull. It's easier, if you can, to get over here where you can push down on it. Again, look where your hand's going to go. Is it going to get smooshed or what have you when it goes? Because it will go. The question is, you don't want to be between it and wherever else. Okay? Again, sometimes I find it easier just to give it the old tap. And down she comes. Now, sometimes you're like, I need a longer handle. I wish I had a longer handle. Me too. So what you can do is you can hook this box end over this open end and create yourself an even longer handle. It's cute if you don't have a piece of pipe handy. Right? I have several pieces of pipe at my disposal that I like to keep around just for that purpose. Okay? Nice. I think that pretty much takes care of a little faster, but of what I wanted to talk about. It was so beautiful the last time it got cut.